Welcome to 2024. We are here in our Rat Den studios with Kyell Gold and K.M. Hirosaki.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be back in the Rat Den studio.
I gotta say, we're back in the bunker. Is
Yeah,
that what
the
we called
bunker.
It
It was the bunker.
Yeah.
It was the bunker.
We are, in fact, back in the bunker, by the way, for those of you at home. We are recording in where we used to record, so.
It's just been repurposed into a rat den.
It has been. It used to be a lot more wolfy, and now it's all ratitated.
We got a storage area, so we moved all the wolf stuff into the storage area.
Where it belongs. So yeah, welcome back to us.
Welcome back to us.
Yeah.
Anyway, when he introduced us to this concept of what we're doing now, our rat engineer reminded us that it has been 15 years since we recorded the first episode of Unsheathed.
I felt myself age when I heard him say it.
And I was thinking, for some reason, like my memories of Unsheathed are all just in the time where I was just writing full time.
Yeah.
And
I feel like they're from another lifetime ago.
And they do. But then I was doing the math, and in this first episode, we were talking about going to Camp Farrell, and I was like, wait, that was 2009. I still had a tech job.
Yeah, I still had an office job too.
And
I talked about having to go into work.
Yeah.
And that didn't last for much longer either.
And we were talking about me writing Shadow of the Father, and so I was like, well, definitely, I know exactly what job I had when I was writing that, because I was doing 1,000 words a day.
Yeah.
And that was the first 3 months of 2009, because it came out in 2010. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we used to keep up a lot, like on the job. I would back when we still had AIM, I think we were still using for a while there.
We did still have AIM in 2009. I can verify that.
Yeah, I had multiple AIM accounts for different sub-levels of how focused on my work I needed to be. There was like, here's my regular AIM account, and then here's my AIM account that is only for when I'm at work, and here's my AIM account for only the really important people that I use to talk to when I'm at work. And yet now the concept of being unreachable online is just not a thing.
Right. Yeah.
Completely.
Remember when AIM you used to be able to set yourself away?
Yeah, away. Imagine being away from the internet in 2024. There's no away from the internet.
Yeah. And now I'm like, did I ever have that only important friends AIM account?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I did.
And now instead the compromise is like, oh no, somebody asked me a question, and then you freak out and you don't answer them for 3 days. Or sometimes several months. Like, that's just kind of how human communication has turned.
Yup. Anyway,
Oh, the good old days.
it's 2024 now.
Yeah. We all feel so much older.
How innocent we were back in those times.
I know, I was going to say, we were still at Obama 1.
Yeah.
Fairly early on in it when we got started on this.
And I don't know if you were ever innocent, but more.
I was clean.
Optimistic.
I was cleaner on the inside. No, that's not right.
That's not right.
I think
Hopeful. No.
I think in a serious line, I think I was more concerned about being professional is kind of a loaded word, but seeming like that I was taking the writing seriously.
Yeah.
So even if we were talking about, Shadow of the Father has porn in it, Out of Position had come out that year, which is, super porny. But we would talk about it in service to the story and all that, and we would kind of make nods to, well, obviously we put the adult stuff in because we like it and sex is fun, but also there have to be story reasons for it. And I think I won't speak for you, but I think I have fewer fucks to give now about what people think of me.
No, exactly.
So I'm just like, I'm just writing a thing because I want to write it, and if it has fucking in it, then great. That's because I wanted to put it in.
The idea of needing to justify things, I think, has definitely fallen out of my own mind. I used to have like really strong feelings about justifying your furry worlds and, you know, why things are the way they are, and it's like, maybe you just want to write a story with animal people in it. It's just a goddamn story with animal people. Don't think about it too hard.
And I think we always did say that. My recollection is we always left room for that, but then I would always go on to, or not always, I would go on to say, but if you want to write about animal people, then choose a story that uses the animal people setting to good effect.
Yeah.
And I recently, on my Substack, someone asked a question about furry world building, and so I was like, "Well, I'm writing a craft book about writing novels now, so let me just write a chapter about furry worlds." And I'm like, if you want to write a furry book, just write a furry book.
Yeah. One of my housemates and I just randomly earlier this week just like got onto a discussion about the old film Rock and Rule, which just like, there's just a bunch of animal people in that world, and it's never really explained or even necessarily drawn attention to, unless you're a cult person who reads zines or are old enough to have read a zine at some point. If anyone in Gen Z is listening to this, and I cannot, for the love of God, think of any reason you would be doing that. But in case you are, zines were a thing that, go look them up on the internet. They can explain it quicker than me.
Yeah, it was before the internet was as prevalent as it is now, and just people wanted to share stories, and so they would go to the local. They would go to the local Kinkos. Yeah, they would go to the local Kinkos and make a bunch of copies of it, and then sell it to people or send it to people.
Be a different color.
You know, though, that what I'm seeing as I'm walking around conventions, I mean, so there's like just a handful of publishers left. So walking around the dealer's room, I actually see a lot of not a lot, but I'll see some creators that actually have the equivalent of zines on their tables now. Just like something that looks like they did at a local, not Kinko's, but
there's definitely
office that's just like, they made it themselves.
I forget what it's called. There's a name for it, but like the like artisan small press book binding is really coming back, where people like put care into it. You know, you might print out a bunch of the pages, but then, you know, assemble them and you bind it yourself with string and put like nice fancy covers on them. Or maybe you're just making a bunch of, you can, you know, if you have a printer and a stapler, you can make a zine at home.
Yeah. But in recent years, like especially the last decade, the technological barriers to entry for fan-created content and media, like, it's just so different than before. And so people have been able to create a lot of like very flashy, engaging content in different types of media other than writing. And so like, it's, you know what, it's hard to make time for books nowadays. Like it's tough. Like we're living in this kind of you know, hell cycle of AI and how that inputs, like, or how that impacts, you know, anyone's creative legacy at this point. And gosh, like let's not get started on that.
I'm sure we'll have many episodes to talk about our feelings about AI.
Here's a 2-hour side episode.
But
part one.
But I do think there's also, technology has made books more accessible, because 15 years ago, audiobooks were called books on tape.
Oh my God, that's right.
And they were not very popular.
No.
Unless you were J.K. Rowling and you got Jim Dale to perform your Harry Potter books. I had a bunch of the Harry Potters on CD, and I would listen to them on my commute because they were nice and relaxing. And but this was also before J.K. Rowling was terrible. But
Womp womp.
But audiobooks are so much more prevalent now.
Yeah.
You can listen to them on your phone. You can just like go for a run with your phone. You don't have to buy different physical media. Ebooks are very easy to acquire and read on almost any device you have.
Yeah.
And there are even text-to-speech readers that will read your ebook to you. So books have been made more accessible. It's just this is and like one of those words that I hate, but it's really accurate. Like the attention economy doesn't favor books at the moment because there are now a whole bunch of companies in the business of getting your attention and keeping it as long as they can.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it took me over a year to read the last book I was reading just because other than, I need to be on a plane, and so I need something to occupy my brain with, was like about the only time I would literally like go out of my way to make time to read a book, which like felt bad. And like I've finally started reading fiction again, and it's like, oh, this is why I liked doing this before. It was a book my sister-in-law got me as a gift. That I actually need to pick back up again. I've just been life has been a bit on the hectic side, as it likes to get in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the name of the book?
Yes, it's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabriel Zevin, as I think how you pronounce the name. It's quite engaging. It's about a pair of young people born in the 70s who, when they grow up, they both get into the video game industry as like indie game developers, and sort of how their different lives have like interweave with one another's. I'm not sure exactly where it's going yet, but it's been very engaging and very wittily written. Has a good, strong sense of voice and tone.
Oh man, people in the video game industry, I can't imagine why that would appeal to you.
I know, right? I can't imagine why she would have sent that to me. No, yeah, there's a lot of really things that relate to me, and like you have one of the characters is like from Boston and then like moves to California.
Oh my God.
And moves back to like that sort of thing, and it's like, oh, okay, like. It's like this bi-coastal story that, happens to also line up with my own experience. So that's been fun. Looking forward to wrapping that up and perhaps grabbing another of the like 10 or so novels on my shelf that I need to read.
Yeah, maybe in the next Unsheathed we can list the next books on our piles next to our beds.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I've been trying to force myself to read. I hate saying it that way, but it's getting easier, but I'm forcing myself to read more. So I'm trying to be a little bit more selective by starting with short stories and novellas, because then I see the novella and I'm like, okay, I can get through a novella. And I can usually get through a novella in like a couple days. So I was like, okay, and it's building me up to larger novels again.
I was reminded just recently of Flannery O'Connor's Good Country People, which is it's one of those classic American short stories from a very, very Catholic writer.
Yep.
Which, being from Boston, is also a cultural thing I understand.
I don't think this counts as does not count as a fiction book, but one of my excellent writer friends got me a craft book that is just about sentence syntax.
Oh wow!
And building sentences. And I'm
so excited.
I was so excited, and I'm like, I'm such a writing nerd. I was so excited to read this book, and I'm like a couple chapters into it, and I'm like, this is really cool.
I was traveling during the solar eclipse recently that happened back in April, and a friend of mine who is also into linguistics, as in like goes to school for it and whatnot. We were both staying at a mutual friend's place, and so we have our respective air mattresses in this room, and it's like a little after midnight, and like we're having like these hushed tone conversations about like stuff, and it's like being like 14-year-olds at a sleepover, except instead of like, so what boys do you like, it's like, so what vowels do you use?
I do just want to let people know who are listening and not here with us that when I said it was a book just about sentence syntax, KM's eyes got big, and he like his little waggled his little fist and was like, "Oh my god,
a book about syntax! Let me look at it later."
What's the name of it, and who's the author? Do you remember?
The author is Virginia Tufte, Tufte. The book is called Sentence Syntax, maybe? I don't know. If you look up Virginia Tufte and for a book with sentences in the title, you'll find it.
We'll put it in the liner notes.
It should be easy enough to find, I suppose.
Other funny note, when I showed the book to people in my writing group, one of my other writer friends who is a typography nerd said, "Oh, is she related to Edward Tufte? Because that looks like a cover he would design." And I think her husband and son are both named Edward, so I think the answer is yes, but it's most likely her son, apparently. We are just a bunch of nerds here.
That's I guess ultimately why we decided to come back to Unsheathed.
Yeah.
Unsheathed, I don't know, 101, or I forget what the last episode was. Off to some homework. Just wanted to
Yeah,
jump in.
we stopped numbering them after a while. They were we did up to like mid-90s, and then we did like a few at conventions.
Yeah,
so.
For the last several, it was just kind of a convention-only dig. And then it was a convention-only dig that I sometimes wasn't even part of.
Sometimes.
I think we tried to call you in once. We'll find out. This will be a journey for us as well as for you listeners.
This all feels so long ago.
Does. Listening, so I actually listened to the last couple podcasts, like the first couple, just to refresh myself. It was really interesting listening to just everything about it. It was really interesting. It was like you had just come back from Anthrocon, X had just been released,
yes,
which was a big work that Kyell, you had edited and spent a lot of time on. There's a lot of names in there that people are still very much part of the fandom, which is awesome, and still publishing. I think actually even one of them just won a Kyell Award for their Voice of the Dog podcast, where they read short stories.
Oh, okay.
So that was cool. But yeah, anyway, but it's like kind of going down a memory lane, but also recognizing that a lot of the folks are still around doing cool stuff.
Also, these first 6 podcast episodes are not available anywhere, and I believe that was because the audio quality was not great on them. So going back over and reviewing what we were talking about is of some value. I remember X quite fondly. I'm still proud of that one, and proud of the... I let all the other authors choose the commandments first because I didn't want to abuse my position as editor to get one of the really good ones. And so I ended up with "Thou shalt respect the Sabbath day and keep it holy."
Oh, that's right.
And I'm pretty proud of what I did with it. I think it was a good story at least.
I thought that was Alex Vance's at first, but which one did he get?
He did the first one, I think. He had
you shall have no gods.
No gods before me.
Okay.
Also,
I mostly remember like the list of people all joking that I wanted "thou shalt not kill," and I'm like, no. False witness, give me false witness. I have a great idea of false witness.
Yeah, and also like the list of commandments is different depending on what version of the Bible you get.
Or like what sect of Christianity you belong to.
Yeah, and I forget what it is, but one of them, I think, I'm not going to say it here, but like one of them splits out one of the commandments
Yeah.
and combines another one, and then like in another place that the first one is put together and the other one is split out.
Yeah, I think like in one section, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife and thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's belongings are either like separate or combined.
And I think the other one is thou shalt have no other gods before me, and graven images.
Yes,
or false idols.
Idols, yeah. A graven image.
I think those are either combined or separated. So I picked a list.
I'm not a Bible scholar, but one of my roommates is.
And if I'm remembering, I don't know. I'm sitting here speculating when we could just go get the book or have
That smacks of effort.
our Rad, who is sitting by the Sofawolf page, tell us.
What was your question?
What are the commandments? What's the list of commandments in?
I don't think I actually have that on the website.
Oh, is it not?
No, it doesn't list the chapters. Oh, but I bet if I go to Amazon, I could probably look at the index. It's on
There you
Amazon,
go.
right? Yes,
It's
we
2024
sell
and
books
we
on
can
Amazon.
find anything.
Oh, can you
We
find
can-
X on Amazon?
We
I
can
don't
look
know if
up
that's
things
possible.
online.
X on
Um,
Amazon. There you go.
I can also look at the Fur Planet site. Anyway,
I don't know if X is...
more fascinating podcast content.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a conversation in the first episode where we were talking about how this is going to be so exciting for people to listen to, and here we are again.
Here we are again. Yeah,
It all comes full circle.
I don't need to.
It does.
Will fixes it.
Like a tamagoyaki.
Like a what?
It's the Japanese rolled omelet. Like, it's
Say the name again.
tamagoyaki.
Kamagoyaki. Okay.
Yeah.
Kamago is egg.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And then
Man.
yaki is like grilled, usually. It refers to cooking things with heat and fire is yaku, as opposed to like. It can also be used for baking, because you're using, again, nominally heat and fire, at least in a traditional method.
You're not going to believe this, but just searching the letter X does not immediately give you the thing you're looking for.
Elmo bought the whole letter, and now you can't find it.
Jesus.
He's made sure that the internet only brings you to Elmo.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. Were we even on that platform back when we were on?
In the
podcast?
beginning?
Maybe
Which platform?
the one of which we shall not speak.
Yeah.
Oh.
The one you're searching for.
God, 2008 maybe. I think I must have been on it by 2009. That feels about right. It would have been when I got my first smartphone, which was a iPhone 3GS. So if anyone remembers when that was released, we can solve this quandary.
I'm not quickly finding X either, even under your name. Maybe it's not up there. Oh, page 2. No. Don't see it.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
Bible stuff.
But yeah, Bible stuff that came out, which was really interesting, and it was an interesting comment upon kind of the state of the furry publishing at the time. Lots of people excited about books coming out.
Yeah, I was talking to Kyell earlier before we started recording that I still really like my story from that anthology. I'm still really proud of that.
It's a really strong anthology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really love the piece of art that Ocelot did for it as well. I think it really captures the emotional mood of the story.
Yeah.
Just to, throw out some respect to old time content creation for the furry past.
We have a copy of it somewhere here, so we will put the listing in the show notes.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's a thing I've learned to
Show
say
notes.
about podcasts.
That's what you can do.
After 15 years, we figured that word out. So you come out of AmthCon, X had come out. We didn't have any readers' questions in that one yet.
Yeah,
because we had just started.
We
didn't
had
even know
just
what we were
dropped
calling
the
ourselves.
podcast. Although
Nobody knew
clearly-
we were doing it.
We clearly had interactions with our own online audiences because I talk about meeting people and whatnot that like we like interacted with. And so I think it was just we were on websites like LiveJournal and possibly like certain Yahoo groups and stuff. I know there was a Yahoo group that we were a part of.
The erotic furry writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
talked about me and
like,
Klesk Vandragar.
oh, wow. There we go. There's a name I've not heard in a long time.
But he's not you, just to be clear.
Yes, that's true. I have also not heard my name in a long time. Or at least...
That, I was watching that scene, and... Oh, no, it wasn't. It was you or one of your roommates was showing that video where they put dialogue for for R2D2.
Yes.
But along the way, like, there's a lot of scenes from Star Wars that I haven't seen that movie in a while, and I was watching it and thinking, man, that was a really good adventure movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's a fun movie.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm just like, man, I want to watch the old Star Wars again. Star Wars. I'm sure we'll talk about that in our course of talking about things.
We'll have to
You
remember
think?
what had just come out at the time, and what I'm sure we'll talk about it in the podcast, actually, the Unsheathed episodes. Like,
We had also been talking about Heat 6 coming out.
That's right.
yeah, we should have grabbed a couple copies before.
Which
the
was,
podcast. You brought it up.
which, like, I've had stories in. I'm trying to remember how many episodes or how many issues of Heat there are, but I've had stories in maybe a dozen of them. And there's only a few that I actually associate with the issue that they're in. But in this first episode, we were talking about that story and how the story takes place entirely within the span of a blowjob.
Oh yeah.
which was a story idea that you and I had kicked around, and I decided to finally write it, and I still like that one. I think it's a good effort for the concept. It's a good execution of the concept.
Talk with your mouth full. That's right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of it relies on the guy texting while he's giving the blowjob. But still fun.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm in Heat 5, and then I think I'm in like Heat 8, maybe.
I think 7 is the first one that I wasn't in.
Do you have your Fur Wiki page, Ricky? Or K.M.'s Hirosaki? Oh my gosh. K.M. Hirosaki.
I was wondering who would be the first one to do that.
It is Heat 8.
I don't know.
Oh, it's fine.
I don't know if this episode will go out. We'll see.
Yeah, my story stagnated, which is a really, really rough story.
Are there deer in it?
No.
Oh my god.
No, there's not. It's that was the one where Alapex wrote back to the submission, and it's like, this story is too depressing for Heat, but it's also too good for me to turn down. So, like, I'm gonna take this, but don't do this again. It's like, we kind of want our readers to be happy when they read our erotic anthology. Like,
just don't put it at the end of the magazine.
I'll have to reread that.
That's another story that I'm like proud of, and I also, when I go back and reread it with a decade plus of hindsight, and I'm like, this explains so much about what I was going through at the time.
When was the last time you read it?
Shoot. When did I have the whole aromanticism thing come around? Because I think that was the last time I read it.
A few years ago.
A few years ago, anyway. It was within a half a decade. So I've actually, out of my stories, that's one of the ones I've read more recently. That's one that is very rough and personal. And I'm glad it got published, because that like shows that this rough thing that I went through was still something I was able to turn into art that somebody else appreciated. So that feels nice in retrospect, I guess.
It is funny how our writing is often includes our subconscious, like,
Oh yeah,
waving flags at us.
It's funny. I feel so stupid going back reading a lot of my stuff, and it's just like, how did I not know this is what I was dealing with? And it's like, oh, this is all just a metaphor for this. And it's like, did you not know that when you wrote it? And it's like, no. But like, you know, they talk about how there's a little bit of you and everything that you write, and it's really true. Even you can't, you have to try not to include yourself in writing, and like even then, I think it would be really hard.
The creator of the comic Nimona, which was made into a very fun movie, had written a blog. They're trans now. And so someone asked them the very reasonable question about, hey, was writing about a shape-changing girl or creature you're kind of telling people that you were trans? And they were like, I don't remember thinking that at the time, but let's look back at some of the things I was writing about when I was writing about the book. And there's people asking them about, like, hey, so when Nimona transforms into a big beefy guy, like, do they keep the same gender or pronoun? Like, how do they regard themselves? And then and they're giving these like really thoughtful answers, and so in their blog post they're copying out their answers, and underneath their comment is just like, come on. It was one of those like super obvious in retrospect things, but at the time they were just like, no, I don't know. I mean, I think Nimona is still Nimona no matter what body she's in or no matter what body they're in. And, and they're like,
there you go.
Right.
Like,
right.
It was, what was the conversation that we had with one of our friends where somebody was like, oh, I only think of using they, them when I don't know what gender the other person is. And they're like, yeah, thank you. That's the whole point.
Yup.
It's like, well, welcome to me also not knowing.
Right. Like, what if they don't know what gender they are? How do you know?
Yeah,
Anyway.
no, I think that'll be a really interesting aspect of this. Also, is going back and talking about each of these episodes, and because there's different stories you've written at the time, or were about to read or write.
Yeah.
And then kind of the response that you got from the world, but also the response you've got looking at it, back at it. So I think emotionally it'll be really interesting, but also some of the craft I think is just as fascinating. Like, have you changed your thoughts on story structure, or some things just immutable and it's the same even 15 years later? I think it'll be kind of interesting to talk about.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Definitely. Did
All
we
right.
have anything else to talk about this episode?
Well, we're like 33 minutes, so I still think we want to kind of keep these around that time frame.
Yeah, sounds
That
good.
feels good to me.
And we're still filling this out. I think we will put this up there and start to ask for some questions. We will probably, as we figure things out, we'll let everyone know. So until the next episode,
Or check the show notes.
cheers on my side.
And I'm Kyell Gold signing off.
And I'm K.M. Hirosaki signing off as well. That feels interesting to say again.
And this is Kit Silver. Bye.